We got a full-fledged college squad ready to come in just a moment after we start you with what was an absolute thriller last night in New Orleans. If you did not stay up late, you missed a classic between Ole Miss and Georgia. You understand the storylines, the coaching lines, the semifinals at stake. Winner to face Miami. Second quarter, Georgia trailing 12-7. Gunnar Stockton elusive, and then look, Bart, look at the hit that Gunnar Stockton takes at the end of this play.
I mean, but he stood in there and he delivered the throw. Oh, my, did his head hit first?
I thought maybe he'd be done for the day. Instead, he gets right up and takes it in for the score. Stockton and Georgia take a 14-12 lead. Pete Golden letting his guys hear it on the sideline. Ole Miss now, a 2nd and 4. It's Kewan Lacey, the spectacular running back, Harry. He's going to put it on the ground.
And Dalen Everett, a guy who showed up big in moments like this, SEC championship game this year, last year, scores a touchdown, scoop and score. Bart, I know defensive players love this.
Georgia up 21-12 at halftime. Now, first play, fourth quarter. Ole Miss is down by 5. Trinidad Chambliss was spectacular last night, and this play is special.
Just terrible by Georgia, never containing the quarterback, but just magical by Trinidad Chambliss, being able to extend the play and find his running back for a first down.
That's how they drew it up.
You think that one was magical? How about this? Ole Miss a 3rd and 7 at their own 28. Bart, watch this. Chambliss is going to retreat basically to his own end zone.
You have to stay at the upfield shoulder if you're the outside leverage as the blitzer. They lost contain. He made him pay for it.
Magical play. They turn it into a gain and a first down. Later in the drive, Ole Miss has a 2nd and goal, and it's Lacey going to take it in. He had 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ole Miss goes for the 2, and they get it. So they've come all the way back. They're up 27-24. 10 minutes left. Georgia at their own 33. Harry, they go for it on the 4th and 2. Do we like the decision?
No, I don't like this decision. But also, if you're going to go for it, can the left tackle move and actually block someone who's coming off the edge? Terrible by Georgia's offensive line, especially that left tackle.
And so Ole Miss able to take advantage of the outstanding field position. It's Chambliss. It's Harrison Wallace. It's 34-24 Rebels as they storm from behind. Now we got 7 minutes left. Next Georgia drive, they got a 2nd down. Stockton, here's Zachariah Branch.
There goes that man. His favorite target all season long, Zachariah Branch, showing up in the biggest moments in the Sugar Bowl.
6.5 minutes left in the 4th quarter. It's Lacey. Bart, tell me how they missed the face mask on this call.
Well, this could have been a makeup call for the hold on the touchdown run by Ole Miss earlier in the game. But, yeah, you got to see that. I don't know how they missed it.
Georgia would force a punt. Now Georgia on a 4th and 9. Stockton, clutch to Branch. They convert, and they keep the drive alive. We're 3 minutes and counting. 3rd and 9 now at the 35-yard line. Stockton, this ball is incomplete, but the flag is thrown. It's pass interference. Is this a good call?
I thought it was the right call. He's impeding the path for the tight end, trying to catch the football. Lawson Lucky, great call. They didn't capitalize. They didn't score a touchdown, though.
That's exactly right, because this, you think, is where they lost the game, Georgia.
Yeah, I do. I really thought going on this drive that they had to punch this into the end zone because of how Trinidad Chambliss had played up until that moment.
Instead, it turns into this field goal that ties the game.
OT, we got OT, Greedy. We got OT.
That's what we're all thinking, except Ole Miss had other ideas. 32 seconds left. It's Chambliss. It's Dejon scribbling the play of his life.
8 explosive plays for Ole Miss in that matchup. One of those was a run. The other one was pass plays. That's 20 yards or more through the air that they was able to get.
And that leaves you with Lucas Carnero from 47 yards.
Who needs Lane Kiffin? We all we got.
The celebration is on. Ole Miss in a thriller comes from behind to win it 39-34. An absolutely spectacular game in the SEC, and we have an absolutely spectacular crew to do it with us here. We got Harry, we got Jordan Rodgers, we got E.J. Manuel, we got Josh Pate up with us early. I will start with you, Jordan, because for the 2nd consecutive day, you were the only one on the right side of a pick. You had Ole Miss winning last night. What's your number one takeaway from that victory?
Well, it's that Trinidad Chambliss is a magician. You heard Harry talk about those scrambles earlier. That was really what changed the momentum of the game. And I said it before as we were making our picks. I thought this was going to take a special performance from Trinidad Chambliss, and that's exactly what he delivered. This was a moment where the momentum completely shifted. Kewan Lacey with a couple big plays. This one was absolutely massive, not just for Trinidad to escape running backwards and get this ball to Lacey, but he endures an initial hit He's short of the line to gain, and then he gets the first down. Obviously, after this, Trinidad's able to scramble and hit Trey Wallace, Harrison Wallace down the field for a massive play. This is where the momentum changed, and I think Ole Miss really started to believe they could close this one out, where Georgia's been the team that's closed everybody out all year. But Trinidad Chambliss, he played like a guy that can win a national championship on his shoulders. The Ole Miss team will be on his back.
What do you think of that, EJ?
Look, Trinidad played amazing, but I'll also say my biggest takeaway was how cool and calm and collected Pete Golding was, the head coach. And throughout that football game, anytime the defense made a mistake or anytime, even before the end of the first half where they weren't able to get lined up for a field goal and you saw Pete go and talk to the reporter, he wasn't flustered. He never seemed like the moment was too big for him. And let's keep this in mind, guys. He did just get, promoted up to the head coaching spot. And I think his ability to stay relaxed throughout that entire game kept his team the same way. I even remember one of his corners had a pass interference. And, the corner's kind of walking by him, and he's just encouraging him, telling him, hey, man, it's going to be fine, keep playing ball. And ultimately, I think that's what kept that confidence going for these plays later in that second half for Ole Miss to come back and win.
He has coached 2 games, both of them in the college football playoff. He's now 2-0, as he, of course, is elevated after the departure of Lane Kiffin, which, Josh Pate, is a huge storyline that sort of hovered over and around this game, so much of the build-up and even into last night. What is your biggest takeaway, and how, if at all, does Lane Kiffin figure into it?
Kiffin figures into it in a sense that most people in life, well, let me backtrack. A bunch of people watching this morning have been through breakups. They've been messy, they've been ugly, you feel terrible on the other side. Not many people win the lottery and get a job promotion the next day. I don't know how that would feel, but that's kind of how Ole Miss fans have to feel this morning. It's just, wow. I prayed for times like these. And now you get to go to the semifinal, and now, Greeny, you don't have time to talk about it right now, but there's this whole side conversation about the staff that is contractually signed to go to LSU. And I think a lot of people in the room just thought, oh, they'll go play the Georgia game and then they'll lose and they'll be done. Well, that's not the way college football works. So now you got to work out on paper who goes to play the semifinal coaching matchup, not just the players. To go back to Trinidad Chambliss for just a second, said yesterday, he's the most dangerous quarterback left in this tournament. There's a difference sometimes in the best and the most dangerous, and he may be both of them, by the way, but the most dangerous is the kind of guy that puts a coach as experienced as Kirby Smart in a position where he feels like he needs to go for it on his own 30 in a 3-point game with 9 minutes and change to go. That's the kind of stuff. Deshaun Watson did it a generation ago. Manziel's done that kind of stuff. He did that kind of stuff last night. It's the kind of stuff they remember way afterwards. Kirby Smart will be talking about him at clinics for the rest of his life, about how sometimes you get put in a position where there's nothing you can do.
The only thing you said there that I disagree with is that we don't have time to get into that sidebar here. I think we do, because I'm not sure everyone fully understands it. Ole Miss, by virtue of their win, is now scheduled to play Miami in the college football playoff semifinal next Thursday. The transfer portal opens today. Many of the coaches on that staff are supposed to be at LSU now. So what actually does happen now, Josh, to the best of your understanding and the best of what we know, as far as how that will affect Mississippi going forward into their next playoff game?
I would encourage everyone actually to go to ESPN.com. Mark Schlabach is all over this morning and last night, and had a really good feature about it, because the fact of the matter is a lot of it's up in the air. A lot of it's undecided. You've got Lane Kiffin's side of things, and the LSU side of things is you guys signed contracts to come here. And, this isn't going to be spoken publicly, but the stance is, look, we let you coach the quarterfinal game. I just think flat out the thought in the room was they're a touchdown underdog. So we'll let them go coach that game. They'll lose it, and then they'll come here. They won the game. And this was always a possibility, but I don't think it was really in the plan. It was much more of a contingency side plan over here. And there is going to be some contentious conversations that have to happen, because those guys are supposed to be in Baton Rouge today, getting ready or recruiting for the transfer portal. And instead, they got Miami and Glendale, Arizona in a week. And I don't think as of this morning, that stuff's fully decided, Greeny.
Here's what I can tell you. Our Heather Dinich spoke to Lane Kiffin this morning, and this is what he said, quote, "Everything has been extremely clear and transparent between myself and Pete Golding through constant communication, including a plan all the way through this historic championship run." So he says that he and Pete know what's about to happen. The rest of us, I suppose, have to wait and find out what that plan is. Harry, we did the highlight, but what is your number one takeaway from Ole Miss's win over Georgia last night?
Well, I think you look at the University of Georgia. They were terrible in the secondary. They gave up explosive plays, 8 to be exact. And then they did not contain the quarterback over and over again. And I think when you look at them offensively, they have to get to a point to where they can push the football down the field. Their DNA is dink and dunk, right? Screen plays, throw it to the running back, take shots, very minimum ones, down the football field. They got to get to a point to where they can have guys on the outside that they can trust, that they can get open, number one, win routes one-on-one on the outside as well, and take deep shots like we've seen Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss Rebels be able to do. I thought the wide receivers for Ole Miss, they were phenomenal all night long, especially on that 3rd and 5 on the last drive, under a minute to go. Great job by the wide receiver winning one-on-one to set up the game-winning field goal.
The Rose Bowl yesterday. Let's call this one the statement of the century. Alabama, the 9 seed. Indiana, the 1 seed. In rainy Pasadena, the rain stopped. Early second quarter, there's a big moment. Bama down 3-0, Harry, in their own territory. They're on 34, going for it on the 4th and 1, and they're stuffed.
Greeny, I spoke about the linebackers of Indiana yesterday. Isaiah Jones, great job shedding a blocker, making this tackle, and then the rest of the cavalry coming to get that 4th down stop, turnover on down.
Really interesting decision by Kalen DeBoer early, and he pays for it because on the ensuing drive, 3rd and 8, look at this catch from Charlie Becker.
You can try to play cover 0 if you want to. 8 for 8, 161 yards, 3 touchdowns versus the blitz. Charlie Becker has showed up big in the last 2 ball games for Indiana as well.
They're up 10-0. Mendoza loves it, and he was just getting started. Late in the half, Alabama 3rd and 7. This turns out to be a monumental play for a variety of reasons. He scrambles for the first down, but then boom, loses the football, and then boom, takes the shot to the side that winds up leaving him with a cracked rib that would ultimately force him from this game. That one forces the fumble. That one causes the injury. So a devastating 1-2 punch there for the tie. In the meantime, Indiana is able to take over. They capitalize. 20 seconds left. Omar Cooper.
Yeah, great job by Fernando Mendoza with the ball fake, getting all the guys to draw up, thinking it's going to be run. Touchdown to Omar Cooper Jr.
17-0. The game was in danger of getting completely away, and then it did exactly that.
Yeah, 3rd and 1. They're going to sell out for the run. Going to play man coverage on the outside. It's a slant and go sluggo. Fernando Mendoza, ball placement is everything. Touchdown, Elijah Surratt.
He was perfect. Ty Simpson had to come out of the game. Don't know that it would have made any difference at all. This is Kalon Black getting loose. He had 99 yards. Indiana up 31-3. 4th quarter, 18-yard line. Oh, my goodness. Roman putting the him in Himby. Indiana goes on to win it 38-3. As decisive as it could possibly be. They will play Oregon in the semifinals. Afterwards, here's their coach with Reese Davis.
How would you describe the turnaround and what you've been able to build in a short period of time?
It'd be a hell of a movie. There's been a lot of firsts. It is kind of surreal. There's no doubt about it. I understand why there's been a lot of skeptics, but I only have one thing to say. Hoosiers!
If you don't love that guy, then I'm not sure exactly what it is you're not paying attention to. We got Paul Finebaum joining the conversation for the first time this morning. We'll have so many people in here all morning long. I set aside a lot of time to do this game. We can do justice to both sides of it because I think both sides are equally interesting. But Josh, I'll start with you because there's an interesting dynamic that was at play here. Indiana was the number 1 team in this game, not Alabama. Indiana had the best season in the country, not Alabama. Indiana was a 7-point favorite, not Alabama. And yet, I feel like there is a sentiment that this was the game that validated somehow, even though Indiana probably beat better teams along the way, this one gave them a validation that perhaps some people did not previously give them. Is that a reasonable way to sort of sum up the way you think people feel? And is it the right way to feel?
Yeah, I'm people. You're describing me because I came on here yesterday. Not only did I pick Alabama, I didn't do it looking down at the keyboard or up at the ceiling. I looked you right in the face, ignorantly and emphatically, and said, yeah, I think Alabama's going to win the game. So, I mean, I hid under this carpet next to me for the latter part of the second half yesterday. So I can speak for myself. Yes, I needed to see that. because like Curt Cignetti said there, said, I understand why they're skeptics. I hope he means that. It makes me feel better this morning. But he said, I understand why there are skeptics. And I think maybe there's not a skepticism about the quality of team Indiana has. That wasn't what I was skeptical about. It's still that we're going through this book of firsts with them. And so the next page in that book was, now that everyone expects you to win, and now that you got to do the whole take time off thing, and now you got to face a team that's playing for its life, and it does know how to win. It's been there before in Alabama. Can you do all that? And then you find yourself at halftime saying, wow, this isn't close. And on the scoreboard, it just ended up getting further and further and further away. I mean, we'll talk about the Alabama piece in a second, but the Indiana piece of this is just, there's still this newness. There's still this sense that you put the Jell-O in the fridge 5 minutes ago, and it's slowly congealing, but it's a new world on multiple fronts. This is the biggest front, and this is one now where you've got Indiana doing everything that the team over there with the A on its helmet would have done a generation ago.
That's exactly right. Paul, a lot of people, and Cignetti is one of many former Nick Saban assistants that we're seeing in this tournament. A lot of people saying that he reminds them of a young Nick Saban.
Well, he does. And Greeny, if you just walked in from lunch yesterday and watched this game, you thought the team that was beating down Alabama was Alabama under Nick Saban. I realized the uniform was similar, but they played just like a Nick Saban team. They beat you to death and made you give up, and that's what happened. And that's why everybody in Alabama this morning is besides themselves, because their team looks soft, their coach looks soft, and their program looks soft. And that is unprecedented territory for Alabama. Yeah, there have been bad losses in recent history. Nick Saban lost by 28 once in a national championship game with Tua Tagovailoa. Of course, he's lost a lot of games like that, Tua has. But ultimately, he'd also had a number of championships in his back pocket. Kalen DeBoer doesn't have anything in his back pocket right now except ill will from the Alabama fan base. And I thought that all changed 10 days ago when we were in Norman, but it has not. It has actually gotten worse, Greeny.
I can't even fathom. I very rarely promote things I'm not involved in. I cannot even fathom what Paul Finebaum's show is going to sound like today. That is certainly recommended listening for everyone. Now, there are a lot of angles in this game. And I've got two quarterbacks on my panel here, so let's go to that. Jordan Rodgers, 2 words, Fernando Mendoza. Go.
Greeny, I sat on here really the last month or so, and every time we've talked about Fernando Mendoza and Dante and more, I've said, look, I lean towards Dante more. I think he's got bigger upside. That changed yesterday. Watching this game for Fernando Mendoza, he was surgical. And there's one thing that's a non-negotiable at the NFL. You have to be able to be accurate, especially downfield, under pressure. And Alabama threw everything they had at Fernando Mendoza, and he didn't flinch. Fernando Mendoza was 8 for 8 for 161 yards and 3 touchdowns against the blitz. He absolutely locked up the #1 pick yesterday because of that performance. Even made a few plays with his legs. That kid can step on an NFL field and play. He made me a believer out of me. And again, I've been on here saying Dante Moore's got better upside, got a little more mobility. I don't care. Fernando Mendoza is a dog, and he showed it yesterday.
Yeah, Field Yates, EJ, texted me while the game was going on, the Raiders should turn in the card right now. That's how good Mendoza was. Again, through a quarterback's eyes, EJ, what did you see?
Yeah, I loved how Fernando played. His decisiveness was really impressive. But here's the other thing, guys, and I wanted this to be in context. Fernando had a lot of things go into his direction for the positive. You look at the offensive line, the way they blocked, that was great. You had some 7-man protections where Alabama had no shot to make a pass rush. Now, then you see throws like this to his right, about 30 yards on a line down the field to Omar Cooper Jr. So, look, I still lean more Dante Moore. I was actually at the Orange Bowl. I saw him, make some throws under duress. I think he kind of transcends a bit more to the NFL, a bit quicker than Fernando, because Fernando, to me, guys, still might need some things around him to go really well. And keep this in mind, there's 3 NFL receivers that are catching balls for Fernando as well. Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr., Charlie Becker. So, again, not hating on Fernando, but I still lean Dante Moore just a tad more.
Now, Alabama's lost yesterday. I promised we'd go deep, and let's do it. One of the things that happened, quarterback Ty Simpson, as we mentioned in the highlight, suffering a cracked rib in the first half of the game, suffered a 3-and-out to start the second half, realized he just couldn't do it, handed the reins over to his backup, Austin Mack. The reality is the game was long since decided by that point. In fact, yesterday's 35-point loss, officially the largest postseason loss in the history of the Alabama football program. So the questions now will be about Coach Kalen DeBoer, who we thought might be leaving for Michigan and now is staying. And as Paul started to say a moment ago, and we will let him continue to say now, where is all of the goodwill that has been built up here in all of this? Paul, like how would you describe the level of frustration / devastation / angst of the Alabama fan base in general, and perhaps in particular with regards to its coach?
I would say it's DEFCON 1, Greeny, and I know a lot of people are saying, how can you say that? Because you were here a week and a half ago talking about what a big win it was against Oklahoma. That seemed like 100 years ago after what happened. And when you show that figure, that it's the worst postseason loss in Alabama history, it's one of the worst losses ever, Alabama fans cannot wrap their arms around that. They are so used to being the hunted. They are so used to having people like Josh and myself say, I'm not really sure how they're going to win, but they're going to win, because that's been the mystique of Alabama. Yesterday shattered that mystique, Greeny. It's gone. Everything that Bear Bryant put up there and others, especially Nick Saban's 6 national championships, went down the drain, not only because it was in the Rose Bowl, it was against Indiana, a team that I couldn't find an Alabama fan that really respected Indiana, and that's what makes this so difficult for Kalen DeBoer. Yes, he's an elite coach. He's on the top rung, but he's not good enough to beat Curt Cignetti. And I even had people texting me late last night, why didn't we, meaning Alabama, hire Curt Cignetti? That's how things have gotten right now. He was not even on the board, as you remember, Greeny, but things are rather bleak right now for Kalen DeBoer. No, he's not going to get fired, nor should he probably be fired. But I don't know a lot of Alabama fans who think he'll ever win a championship, and that's how Alabama fans measure their coach and their program.
Josh, I see the wry smile on your lips. What are the right things to say about the state of Alabama football this morning?
I would just love to take Paul's point there, and let's have a fun little science project, hit the rewind button 2 years, breaking news on his show. Alabama has hired Mike Norvell? No. Kalen DeBoer? No. We're going to hire Curt Cignetti from James Madison. How do you guys love that? Just open the phone lines.
Exactly.
Just open the phone lines for a week. Look, for our entire lifetimes, actually, because for multiple generations, that uniform has meant something, that logo has meant something, okay? And then in the Nick Saban era, it came to mean a whole new thing. It's still a really, really fancy car. The difference is once the driver gets out and you get in, you don't get to benefit from how he drove it. It's yours. It's your program. And that's not even to mention all the changes on the overall landscape of college football. So Kalen DeBoer is going to have to define what Alabama is under him. And I think yesterday was such an off-the-grid performance. By that, I mean, if you wrote down 100 possible outcomes on a piece of paper, the dot that ended up being yesterday's outcome is off the paper entirely. It makes you question everything. He said in his postgame, you got to question everything. And I agree with him. And it's very easy to say, oh, Kalen DeBoer, yes or no. You got to dive deeper on this. Alabama for 2 years. The University of Alabama has not been able to run the football. Ryan Grubb was fired in Seattle because he couldn't do it. He has now not done it at Alabama. And the biggest question for me about Kalen DeBoer is not Kalen DeBoer himself. The biggest question is going to be, it's obvious there's some tough decisions that have to be made around there if they're going to fulfill their potential offensively, therefore fulfill their potential as a team. Is he ready to do that? Does he see that as necessary?
Well, one of the many questions that has to get answered is who their quarterback is going to be. And Jordan, you and I were talking yesterday about what a big game this was, or what a big playoff this was for Bama's quarterback Ty Simpson, who might play his way into or out of the first round, depending on how things went. I don't know how yesterday could have gone much worse. Obviously, he gets hurt in the game. What are your thoughts on that this morning?
Yeah, I think he had the most to gain and the most to lose, and he lost a lot yesterday, right? He's not playing himself into the conversation for QB1, QB2, or the first round, especially with the way not just yesterday went, but the last month or so went. And I will say not all of it is his fault. To Josh's point, they can't run the football. You can't beat good defenses when you are completely unbalanced like that, and you depend solely on drop-back passing. So he didn't have any help, but he should definitely come back to school. He's a really good player. His film is still fantastic at times, but there is a lot that needs to improve around him. He still needs to improve a lot. And just to wrap up the Alabama as a whole conversation, I think the most glaring issue is Bama fans and us that cover the SEC aren't used to seeing Bama out-coached this many times in the span of a couple years. And take yesterday for an example. And Indiana's done it to a lot of people, but Indiana has 8 players on that roster that were 4 or 5 stars. Alabama has 57. The talent composite of this roster should not have a performance like we saw yesterday, especially with them quitting at the end. So that's the most glaring thing. Ty should come back to school, but man, we haven't seen a Bama team get out-coached this consistently at times over the last couple of years. That's a big problem.
EJ.
Here's the thing. So as a former player of a team that hasn't sniffed the playoff, and I'm talking about Florida State, Alabama fans still need to be at least appreciative of what this Alabama team and Kalen DeBoer have done this season. You got into the playoff. You won a game against Oklahoma at Oklahoma. Now you got boat race here against Indiana, but Indiana is the #1 damn team in the country, so you can't overreact. But like Jordan said, they can't run the football. All this anger, all this angst needs to go in the direction of trying to figure out how to get some kind of run game, which I then also think Jordan would help Ty Simpson a lot. And look, I think if Ty does come out this year, he could work himself into being QB2, QB3 maybe, because we know how you can have a run in the Senior Bowl, go to the Combine and still impress, because it is about a body of work. I don't think it's just about a performance here against Indiana. But for Alabama fans, I get it. But ultimately, there's one of one when you talk about Nick Saban. There's some other greats like Kirby Smart, Dabo, but overall, you can't just have the expectation every single year to dominate everybody. Other teams got money and other teams are getting better too.